Hello and welcome again to a new video. I am Repair Dude and today we're repairing the diesel sensor in my Volkswagen Transporter T4 from 2002. After a long road trip of about 4,000 kilometers, the next day it wouldn't start. I had to use brake cleaner to get it running. Didn't run very well, so I shut it off, did some examination, found out the diesel filter was bad, probably due to the freezing cold in Croatia or bad diesel, I don't know. I swapped it. I also decided to swap the gas tank sensor as these are connected to each other. It's located beneath the seats. It's not a very difficult job to do, but there are some issues you might come across, so that's why I made this video. In this fragment you see me starting it up after I swapped it, so please watch the video to see how we did it. In this first part, we remove the metal plate on top of the fuel sensor. It's held in with 3 screws, so no big deal. You have to loosen the handbrake also to get access to this metal plate. Once the metal plate is off, you can see that it's linked to the ECU with one connector and also 2 fuel lines, one ingoing, one outgoing. The whole assembly is put into place with a black screw thing, let's call it. To remove this you have a special tool from Volkswagen. Of course we don't have this, so we use a chisel and a hammer. We'll see that later on in the video, but for now we're trying to get the metal clamps off the fuel lines to get the fuel lines off. This looked like an easy job. I had a special set of tweezers I bought, but they didn't really did the job well, so I used the normal tweezers to get them off. You have to shove them back so you have access to the fuel line over the metal part of the gas sensor. You can see the colors as well, white and blue, one in and one outgoing. Be sure to not mix these up after swapping the fuel sensor, because this might lead to more problems. In the video you can see that it's you have some space, but it's not ideal with the handbrake in the way and everything. It's not very comfortable to work on, but you have to do what you have to do. So after removing the metal clamps, you should loosen the fuel lines. I didn't get it at first, but after wiggling them a bit, I heard them click, and when they clicked, they got loose. You pull them out, push them aside, and from there on, you can move on to the next step of the video. As you saw in the previous part, the fuel lines didn't come off very easily, so I moved on to the black screw mechanism that was holding the cell in place. Just tapped it really slightly with the hammer and the chisel and you see it coming loose. Then you can unscrew it with your hands. After that, the fuel lines, I tried it with a different set of tweezers and they finally clicked loose. Then you can pull them out, push them aside, and you can unscrew the black screw mechanism. After this, the fuel cell comes out pretty easily. Just make sure that you have something to catch the fuel in, because it's gonna drip a lot, as you can see. I had a bucket near me, so I put it in there after most of the diesel was back in the tank. I also did this with a very empty fuel tank, because if it's full, it's gonna be a lot more fuel spilling. To make sure that this doesn't happen, make sure that the fuel tank is as empty as possible. After that, I checked the fuel tank for any debris or any metal or any, I don't know what could be in there, but it all seemed clean. After that, you just do it the other way around, put the new fuel cell in, connect the new fuel lines, make sure that the black screw mechanism is held on very tightly, because this makes the vacuum seal for the tank. If it's not sealed tight, you're gonna have some air leakage, and this is gonna cause multiple problems, of course. After you've done this, you just have to reconnect the fuel lines in the correct way. Make sure that you push them over the metal connection of the fuel cell completely, because if they're not put in completely, you're gonna have problems also. After this, the metal clamps are just gonna be pushed over again as they were before. I reconnected the connector and then I tried to start up the car. Make sure you prime the fuel pump a few times because the fuel has to go around before the car can start. So you turn on the ignition, you wait a few seconds, you turn it off, you turn it on again, you turn it off again. I did this about 5 or 10 times to make sure that the fuel was around in the whole system. Then the car should start up normally. If this is not the case, you might have to check for air leakages on the black screw thing, on the fuel lines, maybe on the fuel filter if you also change this one. If that's not the case, you might have a different problem. In my case, it worked. I tested it, I started it up, let it run for a few minutes, and everything was fine again. If the car was running normally again, you can start with reassembling the metal plate, putting the handbrake back into place. Make sure that the handbrake is off, because if there's tension on the cable, you might not be able to get it over the screws. Make sure you also bolt it in tightly, because you're gonna use that handbrake a lot, and do time and also force, it's gonna come loose again. Once you did this, you can put the flooring back. The flooring is glued in, so I had to take it out. I'm gonna re-glue it later. I just wanted to make sure everything was working and is going to keep working in the future, so this will be a project for the next time. Then you just have to put the seats back in. This is luckily very easily on these T4s. Just push them over the screws that are in the bottom of the car. Put the bolts on. Make sure that these are also put in very tightly, because if you have an accident or you're gonna brake very hard, you don't want to be thrown out of the window with the seat on your back. This is all very straightforward and shouldn't need a lot of explanation, but I filmed it anyway, so that if people come across problems, they can watch the video and see how it's done. That was it for now. The car is still running. We're like a week later. I did about 500 or 600 kilometers already. It's starting up pretty good. It's also running pretty good, and my fuel indicator in the dash is also working better. So it was, as I thought, time for the new fuel cell. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please like and subscribe and comment below the video, and watch out for the next video.